the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce. I am Aureo Sales, the current president of the PACC, or the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of New York. We are honored to have our very first guest, Trade Commissioner Ben Uy of the Department of Trade and Industry. So welcome, Ben. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Aureo. Thanks to the chamber.
So Commissioner Ben was actually in Belgium before New York. And before that, you had several roles. You were also in Taiwan, I think, for almost 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. So in your current capacity, what actually is your goal and mandate here in New York?
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Aureo. And yeah, thanks for having me here. So yeah, I'm Ben, basically as the representative of the Philippine Department of Trade and Industry here in New York. Our goal is really to promote our economic interest in this part of the world. So meaning we promote investments going into the Philippines. We try to promote the export of Philippine products and services here in the US. And at the same time, we do industry development, business development that can foster more economic and trade relations between our two countries or two places. Basically, that's our mandate, that's our goal. And we just try our best to connect with organizations such as yours, the Philippine American Chambers of Commerce. And thank you for having me here, because you guys really have the pool, the network of business people in this area, which can give us advice, can give us leads, and we can work together to promote as I've said, the interest of our motherland, the Philippines.
So, so you had experience. You were in Taiwan, you were in Belgium, and now here. What are the unique challenges and how would you compare the countries?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, siguro I'll premise our conversation with how many offices we have. So the Department of Trade and Industry has like 30, if I'm not mistaken, 30 offices all over the world. So we are present in East Asia, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, in China, in Europe, and also here, of course, in America, which is a very important market for us. So different markets has different priorities and things that they can contribute to the Philippines. So when I was in Taiwan, we were very heavy with manufacturing investments. So as you know, Taiwan is known for the electronics capabilities, microchips, semiconductor, and all. So we try to work on that as to how the Philippines can collaborate with them. So we are able to bring major Taiwanese investments in the semicon industry or electronics, consumer electronics, like during my time in Taiwan, we were trying to position the Philippines as the printer manufacturing hub of Asia. And you'll be surprised to know that of all the printer brands, only HP doesn't have manufacturing in the Philippines. But Canon, Fujitsu, Lexmark, Brother, Epson has their manufacturing in the Philippines. Many of the parts manufacturers are Taiwanese. So we encourage them to set up in the Philippines together with the Japanese. And the latest that we had before I left Taiwan was Kimpo. It's one of the top 5 or top 10 electronics manufacturer of Taiwan. And they are the subcon manufacturer for Dyson, Toshiba hard disks, and some printers as well. No? So that's the flavor of Taiwan. That's what Taiwan that's most of our agenda there, is how to bring in these electronics manufacturers to go into the Philippines. Now, when I was in Belgium, it was a totally different shift of mindset and work. Because for Europe, or for Belgium, which is at Brussels, which is the seat of the European Union, we were really focused more on trade policy. Not much on trade promotion, because Belgium is quite small in terms of population, in terms of market size. But that's where the decision makers are for the European market. So we did a lot of lobbying efforts and relationship building with the European Union, the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council with regard to how can we position the Philippines as a trade partner for them, and how do we encourage the Europeans to look into the Philippines and give us or start negotiating free trade agreement, for example. Because at the time when I was there, we had already one or two rounds of negotiation, and it was put on pause. And it's our job to encourage them to restart the negotiation. At the same time, we have this thing called the GSP, the Generalized System of Preferences. So it's basically a one-way street free trade agreement where the Philippines or any developing countries who's part of the GSP program gets to be enrolled in the GSP program, and we get tariff-free access to the EU. So meaning our products, we get to sell to the EU around 6,700 items. We get to sell to the EU at zero tariff. I mean, how does this translate to lay business people? So for example, we're canned tuna, right? So our canned tuna, if we produce it in the Philippines and ship it going to Europe, the cost of transportation, because it's farther, and the normal tariff of that 20 something percent, how much would be the cost of this canned tuna in the shelves compared to the Mediterranean countries, for example, who are also harvesting tuna, right? So their canned tuna, probably the same cost of fish, but because of the logistics, it's nearer to mainland Europe.
Right.
They have a cost advantage. So how do we compete?
Yeah.
Now, us being a developing country, having these GSP preferences, we get to save on the tariff, right? So instead of having additional 20%, we get it zero. So our price point, when we sell it to the same market, we have some sort of a competitive edge. So we get to sell our products at par with those produced from the neighboring countries. So, I mean, that's the benefit of GSP. And then that's also the reason why we have the vacuum cleaner manufacturers in the Philippines, Dyson, because if the vacuum cleaner is produced in the Philippines, we get to export our vacuum cleaners to Europe at zero tariff. So for the manufacturers, for the brand, it makes sense. For us, it also makes sense because we get to generate employment, right? So that's the chain. I mean, the behind the scene things that's going on. So sorry, it's a very long answer, but just really
it's
want.
very interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And then when I was transferred here in New York, it's now a different ball game because we don't do trade policy work here in New York. All the trade policy here in the US is done by our colleagues in Washington DC. But here in New York, it's really again back to investment promotion and trade promotion. But there's not much manufacturing industries here in New York, right? So it's now promoting a different industry altogether. So it's now BPO. So the business process outsourcing, that's I think I would say 60-70% bulk of our agenda here. So we get to promote, I mean, as you know, here in New York, you have a lot of headquarters here, a lot of decision makers, financial institutions, healthcare, and all. So most of them think of ways to outsource some of their non-core processes. And that's where we come in as the Philippines. We get to promote we can do it for them.
I see. Okay. Since you mentioned the BPO industry, is there any effect of the AI revolution in the as it relates to the BPO industry?
Yeah, so yes, there is really it's a big challenge for us. Not only as a challenge, but also an opportunity if we get to ride the wave quite well. As you know, the business process outsourcing industry in the Philippines is a very important industry because it employs around 1.8 million people. So in our minds, it's not just 1.8 million people we're giving jobs to, but 1.5 million times 5 because of their family members, the father, the mother, the daughters, the children, and all.
There's a multiplier.
The multiplier effect, right? So it's very important. And then so the AI phenomenon that's happening now, it's a challenge because it will take away some of the jobs. Some of the traditional BPO processes that we do, like basic customer service and all, answering queries, can already be done by chatbots, by AI. So this is something that we have to adapt very quickly and train our workforce back home so that they can upskill and develop new things that they can do for the client companies. And this is also a motivation actually for our BPO companies in the Philippines, to think outside of the box and to think, how do they go up the value chain? How do they create higher value, higher paying processes for our people at the same time for their clients here in the US? It forces everybody. So I would like to look at it as an opportunity because it forces everybody to innovate and to move forward, right? And not be complacent and not be comfortable with the basic customer service thing that they're doing the past several years.
Right.
Yeah.
You also mentioned like a hot word of the moment, which is tariff.
Yeah.
So the first question related to that is, how is that affecting the Philippines? And number two, does it also present an opportunity for the Philippines to take advantage of?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So in general, the tariff situation right now here in the US is creating a lot of uncertainty and discomfort just because for the business community, for business people, we always want some certainty. Everybody in the business world need basis to compute their projections, their plans, their budgets, the cost of materials that they use, and et cetera, right? So it's difficult for the entire business community to navigate things if there's a lot of uncertainty, right? But if we're going to look at it at a macro level, if we're going to look at it in the impact on the Philippines, we are fortunate and thankful that the Philippines, amongst ASEAN countries, we have the least or one of the least trade deficit with the US, making us not a target. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to look behind what's the reason behind this tariff, is that President Trump wanted to level the playing field because they saw that there's a lot of trade deficit for the US with some of these countries. But with the Philippines, we're one of the lowest trade deficit. So, and aside from that, we are a trusted partner, we're an ally. So having said that, they impose 10% tariff on Singapore, 17% on the Philippines, and 30 plus, 40 plus percent tariff to the rest of our peers in Southeast Asia who are of the same level as the Philippines in terms of manufacturing capabilities and all. Now, which gives us in a good position, right? Because for those companies who are seeking to source their products from that part of the world, now because of this tariff or cost arbitrage, then we have some sort of an advantage, right? But we cannot rest comfortably yet because, as we see in the news today, White House is still open for negotiations. They're having some sort of trade deals and trade agreements with different countries, especially those who are affected heavily by the tariff. So we don't really know what's the final outcome of the deals that they're making with the other countries. And I guess we just have to wait. But we're not waiting passively. The Philippines is also doing its best. Our colleagues in Washington, D.C., our trade secretary, and together with Secretary Go, went here a couple of weeks ago to also have a meeting with the USTR to also present the case of the Philippines, right? And to show that we are really willing to negotiate with the US and how do we protect our mutual trade interests as well. So we're optimistic that we can also pursue our own deal with the US, and not just in the liberty to say what are the details of that deal, but we just have to rest assured that our principals are also doing their best to negotiate with the US so that we can also come up with a good deal for the Philippines.
Okay. Forget the US for a moment, but between, let's say, Asian countries, Is there any effect of the tariff situation between or among Asian countries?
Yeah, because for example, with China, right, and other ASEAN countries who are traditional suppliers or manufacturers of these goods that are being exported to the rest of the world, then US. So there's now a shift because there's now a demand that people realize that you cannot put everything in just one basket, right? You cannot just put everything in China, you can put everything in Vietnam and all because of all these geopolitical considerations. On the Philippines point of view, it gives us a benefit because there's a shift in the movement of the manufacturing in the chain, the entire value chain itself. So not only the Philippines, but also our neighbors, they are also experiencing all this shift. How the dust will settle, we don't know yet, but there's a lot of movement and a lot also in terms of policy. For example, the ASEAN are getting closer. So if we looked at the result of the meeting of the ASEAN leaders, just I think last week, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, so they came up with a Malaysian declaration that they wanted to basically I forgot the complete name of that declaration, but it's basically aiming for even closer economic integration within the ASEAN countries. So I think that's a big shift.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of market, we also realize that US is not the only important market. Of course, it is a very important market, but we also have to diversify, right? We also have to look closer to Europe, Africa, Middle East, East Asia, and see opportunities there, just so that we de-risk, right? We cannot just rely really on one market and be very vulnerable with any major policies that they may have.
Okay. Wow. There are actually a lot of topics that we can discuss,
Yeah.
but I don't think we'll have a lot. We have enough time to do to get into those topics. You did mention value chain. Is there any specific industry that you or the Philippines would like to develop uh, in the Philippines that
Right.
that we could do right
Right.
in the near future?
Right. So, in the context of the Philippines per se, I mean, looking inward, what is very important for us is to develop three things. Number one is energy security. So, cost of power is still high. So, and there are still areas that has intermittent or not the best situation for their power supply, right? So, we are really encouraging more investments into renewable energy as well as clean traditional energy. And this is reflective of the recent announcements of the Board of Investments and DTI as well, that we had a huge influx of investments in this sector. So we would like to see more investments in energy. Next, very important to the president and to the country itself is food security. So, right, as you know, we are, I think, the biggest or the number two biggest importer of rice. So, in the Philippines, rice is life. So, so we need to produce more, not only rice but other food, no, so that we will not be very dependent on external forces. And then employment intensive industries like manufacturing and BPO, right? Because at the end of the day, it's difficult for the country to progress if we have a lot of unemployed people. So we need to encourage more manufacturing companies and more BPO to expand or set up in the Philippines so that we can provide jobs for our people. So yeah, jobs, food, energy. I think that's the three core. Now, how do we relate it to the opportunities here in the US? So I think in the US East Coast, there's still a huge room for exports of Filipino food products and Filipino artisanal products like crafts. Don't get me wrong, because this is also manufacturing in the Philippines. These also generate jobs back home. Like one of the priorities of our secretary is also how do we make sure that our smaller enterprises, the SMEs, are not left behind. because we cannot just, I mean, of course, the big guys, all these manufacturers inside our export processing zones should be assisted because they generate jobs. But let's not forget our small and micro entrepreneurs in the countryside. So these are mostly producers of processed food, really, really good quality also, and also artisanal products like furniture, houseware, home decors, and all those things. So our job also here at Post is to find opportunities for that. And with it's always naman booming here, the real estate industry here. People always refurbish their homes, they always buy new stuff, and people, of course, will not stop eating. And here in New York, they're always in the quest of something new, something fancy to eat and all. So there's this opportunity, right? Just a matter of finding the energy and the right people to talk to so that that they will be more educated about what the Philippines has to offer. So I think the onus is also on us on how do we find the budget and the means to keep on promoting the Filipino products, as I've said. No?
Yeah.
And lastly, going back to job generation, we hope that there will be more American companies who can look into the Philippines for their outsourcing requirements, no? For their BPO needs. For your audience, it's just really BPO should not be misconstrued as something that takes away jobs from the Americans, because that's not the intention. The intention is that we have different skill sets. And as the Americans prioritize higher value work and tasks and all, and customer facing, front facing kind of services, then there's a lot of back end processes that can be outsourced to the Philippines. So it's not to take away jobs, but to complement, so that you can maintain the same number of people or even more, but these are more customer facing, front facing, sales, marketing, and those processes that entails a lot of relationship building with the clients here. But those non-essential back end processes like HR, bookkeeping, records, coding, etc., can be done by the Philippines. And my colleagues, not so much here in the East Coast, but my colleagues in the West Coast, they're also very active in promoting manufacturing, especially in the electronics. Yeah.
If we're doing this interview like 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now,
Right.
what would be your answers to the questions we posed? For example, where would you see the Philippines in terms of our trade position?
Yeah. So I think my wish or my hope is that really those things that we mentioned about opportunities, I hope 5 years from now, they don't remain to be just opportunities, but they are really realities. And those are realities that we were able to grab, right? Because I think if we go back 5 years ago or the present, we only see them as opportunity, but we need to do a lot of work. It's not something that we can just wish and just fall in our lap, right? We have to work hard to make it into reality. So me or my predecessor, my successors, I mean, and of course with the help of the chamber and everybody, if we should try to do something to grab those opportunities, diba? I mean, what we want to see is a more prosperous Philippines. Philippines that people don't look as something na yung mga kababayan natin here in America, like para tulungan, magpadala ng tulong, magpadala ng money and also that. But as a country that they can really be proud of, and that they can see as not only as in a basis of emotional attachment because their families are there, but on the basis because there is a lot of economic relations, business deals to be done with the Philippines, right? There's a lot of businesses and other things that can be done other than just really looking at the Philippines for beaches, which is very important, of course, and only as a home for their family and a home for their relatives, diba? But something more.
On a personal level. Okay. 5 years or 10 years from now, where is Commissioner Benedict?
Oh, Let me drink water. Hmm. 5 years, 10 years from now, I would like to. No, I really don't know. But I am enjoying my job, and I'm quite passionate about trying to see how I, in my own little way, can help in terms of helping the economy of our country. Right? I mean, everybody, of course, wants to help their country, but everybody has their own way of wanting to help. In my case, I think I'm most effective by preaching about the Philippines and also having this some sort of like a front row seat overseas in encouraging existing and future partners to look more positively in the Philippines and see how we can help each other come up with deals, right? I mean, in terms of appreciation of Filipino products or doing some of their business in the country. So I think, at the end of the day, as long as it helps the Philippines generate more jobs and all, and the big picture, the long-term goal is that me being a provinciano, I'm from Cotabato, from Mindanao, right? It's one of the not so developed areas of the Philippines, right? So having grew up there compared to Manila, we want to see the rest of the countrysides develop as well. And how do you develop it with limited budget, limited national government funds, right? Is that you try to uplift the entire country, try to uplift the image of the entire country, and hopefully businesses, investments will come in and will trickle down to everybody and benefit everybody. So that's the ambitious. But I don't know if I can do it, but I just have to do my own part, keep on being positive about it, and see how it goes. But career-wise, I don't know. I mean, I'm enjoying my job, so hopefully my principals are also enjoying working with me. So, we don't know. We'll see how things will unfold.
Well, the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce, certainly enjoyed collaborating with you.
Mhm.
Actually, we should have part two of this interview, part three, because there are still so many topics that we want to talk with you, discuss with you. You know, your incentive programs, trade incentives, and all of those things. I know your term in New York is ending.
Yeah.
And we're sad. But at the same time, I know that we can count on you
Yeah.
wherever you end up going.
Of course, yeah. I mean, thank you. First of all, again, I'd like to thank the chamber for being. I think you are one of the first organization to welcome me. I think we had our lunch there at the Brazilian restaurant. Now it's closed, right?
Oh, that's close.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I have until now I'm still looking for the cheesy bread. I mean that's my favorite, and then the ginataan na isda. So yeah, you introduced me there. I mean, so the chamber is always very special to me because you have always been a partner, and you have always been not only a partner in terms of work, but really a friend, and which I think transcends careers. Right. So even if I'm assigned overseas or elsewhere, we have to keep in touch. And yeah, and whenever I'm here, maybe I get to visit somewhere somehow, then I'll definitely look for you guys, right? The same way, if you happen to be in the Philippines or wherever I will be, then you're very welcome. But yeah, I mean, thank you. And I just really have one wish. I mean, I hope that we always build upon the successes of the previous collaborations, and I hope that for my successor that you can also extend the same kind of of support and warm welcome, so that you guys can also be very successful moving forward and doing more things, more than what we have achieved. I mean, that's our goal. We always want to level up, right? So yeah, I'm sure you can do wonderful things with my successor.
Thank you. We look forward to working with your success. Thank you so much. I think for now this ends our interview with Commissioner Benedict. And until next time.